all over this country.
Across the country, they watched and waited to witness history. And then it came. A goal to remember, the first one for Canada's men at a home World Cup.
We wanted to win, but we'll take the tie. We'll take the tie. We'll take the point.
The Snowbirds set the mood, signaling kickoff for a match full of firsts. Fans in red parading to Toronto Stadium, many having paid thousands to see their team on soccer's biggest stage.
It's well worth it. It's in Canada. It's a once-in-a-lifetime.
The noise from those Canadians, though, was soon rivaled by the crowd in blue. All here to support the opponents from Bosnia.
I'm 110% super Bosnian.
And it was Bosnia who struck first, Canada's supporters showing their disappointment in the first half as Joko Lukic gave the visitors an early lead. Again and again, the Canadians failed to capitalize on chances until the second half, with Kyle Larin coming off the bench to even the score, celebrating by gesturing to call out his doubters.
I always prove them wrong, and I did it again, and hopefully now they can shut up.
Canada battling to a 1-1 draw. It's not a win, to be sure, but for fans, still a result worth celebrating.
We made it out, so we're okay. We're happy. We'll do a great job in the next two games, so I feel confident. I'm happy with the result, and go Canada. Woo!
In Canada's other host city, Vancouver, reviews were mixed.
I didn't like it too much. No.
Why not?
Because they don't play good.
We gotta win out now. Yeah, I think we gotta win out.
For Jesse Marsh, it was a first match on the global stage as head coach, a result to build on next week against Qatar.
You got to find a way to have a bit more confidence and a bit more self-belief and make sure that we go after the game in ways that we want to do so tactically and psychologically and mentally.
Now, to listen to Coach Jesse Marsh there, he views this as a tale of two halves. He told his men after the game that if they play again like they did in the second half, they will win, and indeed they really do have to win their next match against Qatar if they want to keep the dream alive of advancing to the next round.
Yeah, no kidding. Can you walk us through what the team's next steps are here?
Yeah, we got confirmation that the team is going to be traveling to Vancouver on Saturday. They're going to be returning in front of the cameras to train on Monday, and they're going to be setting up their base camp in Vancouver for the remainder of the tournament, potentially again playing in Vancouver if they advance to that crucial knockout phase.
Okay, one day at a time. Mm-hmm. Thomas, thanks very much.
Okay.
Appreciate that. So now let's go to Los Angeles and Lindsay Duncombe as that city kicks off its hosting duties too with USA versus Paraguay. So Lindsay, you're near the SoFi Stadium. I don't know, can you give us a sense of what it feels like there?
You know, people are really excited for this match and for the fact that all of the matches will be being played here are the ones that are being played in the United States. We were talking to the fans as they were streaming in, and they said, you know, it has been 3 decades since the United States hosted a World Cup. So for the young fans, Adrian, this is the first time they're getting a chance to see their team play on home soil. There was a YouGov survey not long ago that said a lot of Americans are not interested in the World Cup. More than 50% said they wouldn't be paying attention. That may well be the case, but it certainly is not the case here as people are prepared for this match. I did speak to a couple of women who said this is about more than soccer.
It's nice to have something where we're all coming together as a country and cheering on and supporting
these players. And with other countries, too, with Canada as well. We were rooting for Canada and all the host countries.
Mexico, yep. Is that because you feel like things feel a bit divided these days?
Of course. Now, the other thing that everyone keeps talking to me about is how expensive tickets to these matches are. If you wanted to get into the match today, there would be the minimum ticket price of $1,000 US, and it just goes up from there. So certainly not accessible for many people who live in Los Angeles. That's why we're seeing, like we're seeing in Canada, many watch parties and festivals where people are getting together to cheer their teams on. And there are some things that are affordable to get here. The city has transit shuttles that are just $1.75 because, Adrian, to get parking here can cost up to $300 US.
Wow, this is nuts, these prices. All right, Lindsay, thank you. That is Lindsay Duncombe in Los Angeles tonight. Well, Ghana player Thomas Partey arriving in the U.S., but he will not be crossing the border next week to play here in Toronto. The Canadian government has denied his visa application. The former Arsenal player has pleaded not guilty to multiple counts of rape and sexual assault in the UK. Partey's case will go to trial next year. Well, heightened border screening is part of Canada's overall World Cup security readiness. So too is keeping fans safe in and around the venues. You look around here and you're trying to assess the threat. What would concern you that has to be secured?
Has to be secured is probably going to be the inner basin where BC Place and Science World is.
Later in the hour, we'll take you to Vancouver behind the scenes with police as Canada's other host city prepares to tighten security. Well, police have arrested and charged an 18-year-old man for firing at the U.S. consulate in Toronto back in March. Sheldon Tracy Stewart faces weapons and vehicle theft charges. One of his alleged accomplices, 19-year-old Zara Jabi, remains at large after police raids yesterday connected to investigations of multiple shootings, including the one at the consulate, led to a shootout and the death of Mark Pinizzato, an 18-year veteran of the Toronto Police. Well, SpaceX debuted on the stock market today with the world's largest ever initial public offering, making its owner, Elon Musk, the world's first trillionaire. Nisha Patel looks at the hype and the risks.
SpaceX is now a publicly traded company. Its launch onto the stock markets, one for the history books. The American rocket maker started by tech titan Elon Musk, completing the biggest initial public offering of all time.
SpaceX wants to be able to take you to the moon, take you to Mars, and ultimately beyond.
Shares began trading at $150 US on the NASDAQ and closed near $161, 19% above the initial public offering. That puts the value of SpaceX at more than $2 trillion. The company's vision is bold, from developing reusable rockets to landing on Mars to building AI data centers in space.
It's just such a unique business, and anything tied to Elon Musk obviously gets a ton of fanfare.
And while some enthusiastic investors are buying into the hype, others worry it's a risky bet. Just last year, the company lost $5 billion.
Building these data centers that allow the computing power to generate AI is very, very expensive.
Research firm Morningstar warns shares are overvalued. While its Starlink satellite service has been successful, share prices could plummet if SpaceX doesn't make good on its more ambitious plans.
As low as $40 a share if you really are just getting the rockets and Starlink and the AI doesn't work out, so to speak.
A test for investors will come in the months ahead when SpaceX releases its first quarterly report.
What happens when earnings start to roll out? How does the market react to it? And how do investors value the company over time?
One thing is certain, the IPO has created an enormous amount of wealth for early investors, on paper at least. The big winner, though, Elon Musk, who holds almost half of SpaceX shares. Taking the company public has made him the world's first trillionaire. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
In southwestern Ontario, 7 people were injured after a car crashed through the wall of a fitness studio. So this happened early this morning at a mall in London, Ontario. Among those hurt, the female driver and a woman who was pinned under the vehicle. Investigators say it appears the car accelerated just before hitting the wall. They expect charges to be laid. Well, the Prime Minister stood beside the French President in Paris, stressing Canada's need for stronger ties across the Atlantic. But as David Cochrane shows us, he stepped carefully around the reason why, with Donald Trump and a G7 summit just days away.
It's a return visit for Mark Carney, as France was the first country he visited as Prime Minister, to strengthen transatlantic ties as those closer to home started to fray.
Nous constatons que l'ordre international est fragmenté.
The international order is fragmenting, says French President Emmanuel Macron, urging democracies to be clear-sighted and work together. to establish. Canada and France will work together with new arrangements on defense procurement, artificial intelligence, and online safety.
Monsieur le Premier Ministre, Canada, cher Marc,
The two leaders will work together in the days leading up to the G7 to set a common agenda.
I believe that the next world order will likely be built out of Europe, and Canada will be part of that effort.
That effort has been accelerating since Kearney hosted the last full gathering of G7 leaders in Alberta. At that time, the wave of new U.S. tariffs and trade disruptions had just begun. Now, all the countries at the G7 table are dealing with problems caused by the biggest player. For Canada, tariffs and trade remain unresolved. Europe and Asia are facing stagnant growth and soaring costs from the energy shocks rippling out of the war in Iran. The Prime Minister was quick to reject the notion that all this created a G6+1.
There are strongly held views by one of the G7 partners that are more extreme than others, and I'm not saying just one. I mean, each of us may have examples of that.
Before the G7, it's off to Ireland for a visit that is both professional and personal for the Prime Minister. In 1925, Mark Carney's Irish grandparents emigrated to Canada, arriving in Halifax with £5 to their name. A century later, their grandson returns as the Prime Minister of the country that gave his ancestors a home. David Cochran, CBC News, Paris.
Mark Carney also addressed a report about the delay in opening the Gordie Howe Bridge.
The Detroit News is reporting that the Canadian officials actually called off the opening of the Gordie Howe Bridge because they were worried about backlash from the Trump administration.
Not
I know
true.
yesterday.
That's not true.
He said again that the delay was made on the request from U.S. officials, citing unspecified technical issues. Canada paid the full $6 billion price tag for the bridge between Detroit and Windsor, but Donald Trump threatened earlier this year to block the opening, and earlier this week, the White House demanded profits from the bridge tolls. Well, the government has tabled a bill to crack down harder on the import of goods made with forced labor. Ottawa says it's been in the works for years, but as Ashley Burke explains, this comes on the heels of a new tariff threat from the U.S.
As the U.S. threatens new tariffs, accusing countries of failing to crack down on forced labor, Canada's coming out with new legislation it hopes will help.
It will be the foundation for a good relationship with the United States.
The new bill gives the Foreign Affairs Minister the power to create a list of products, countries, or regions at high risk of forced labor, triggering added scrutiny.
Then the importer has the responsibility to say, here is the evidence that these come from bona fide factories.
The government says this has been in the works for years, but the bill comes just days after Donald Trump's administration proposed tariffs of at least 10% on dozens of countries.
We have very strong legal, a very strong framework and responsibilities, legal framework and standards and responsibilities. We've been less effective in fully enforcing those.
The government now shifting its position, acknowledging over the past 5 years they haven't turned away enough shipments.
We've only had maybe 50 containers that have been looked at. We've had 2 that have been found to have goods made with forced labor. We know we can do better.
That is a huge problem in Canada.
Mamet Toti is an advocate for China's minority Uyghur population and hopes this bill will help.
We have to empower CBSA just to seize more shipments made by the use of forced labor and to clean up our market.
It's a step in the right direction.
The Conservatives say the government should have acted long ago.
And the government did nothing for the last 5.5 years, despite MPs raising concerns multiple occasions. It wasn't until the Trump administration raised these issues that the government took action.
The government denies the American tariffs is what drove Canada to act, but said this change sends a message to the U.S. and other countries that is taking this issue seriously. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
There are signs tonight the long-awaited peace deal between Iran and the United States is close. Pakistan's Prime Minister, who's been trying to help broker the deal, says one has been reached, but Iran's foreign minister says so far nothing has been signed. In a Canadian exclusive, CBC News is reporting from Iran with permission of the Iranian government, which imposes restrictions on international journalists. However, They do not check our material before it's published or broadcast. Margaret Evans is in Tehran tonight with reaction to news a deal could be near.
Adrian, there is a whole lot of skepticism and a whole lot of confusion on the ground here tonight. Donald Trump has promised that a deal is imminent dozens of times, never to arrive. And over this past week, Iranians have been subjected to a series of reversals and contradictions from the U.S. president on almost a daily basis. It's been like watching a ping pong match, but with much higher stakes. Earlier this week, there was a renewal of U.S. airstrikes. Then there was a threat of a return to all-out war. Then there was the withdrawal of that threat. Then the announcement of potentially another deal. And then the beratement of the Iranian negotiating team. Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi appeared on state television tonight, and he said he does think that they're closer to a deal than ever before. But he also said there could still be changes to it, and the briefing notes from both sides, they don't really match. And all that adds up to a lot of anger for ordinary Iranians here, but also a lot of anxiety. People actually left Tehran, we're told, yesterday because they were really afraid that Donald Trump might launch another wave of attacks. The economy remains in limbo, as do people's future. And a reminder that this deal they're negotiating is just an interim agreement. It's designed to get the two sides to the table where the real negotiations begin. And in the midst of all of this, Israel remains a wild card. Adrian.
All right, the CBC senior international correspondent Margaret Evans in Tehran tonight. Well, Ottawa plans to ban social media for kids under 16 years old, but will this work?
The devil is going to be in the details. Will they also be held accountable for the power that they have? There are some concerns over their access to data.
Reaction from parents and experts to the proposed restrictions next. Plus, Canada earns its first World Cup point with a draw against Bosnia.
And we'll do a great job in the next two games, so I feel confident. I'm happy with the result.
We'll have analysis of the game and what comes next. And later, downtown traffic gets a yellow card.
I got tired of not being able to cross the street because cars were blocking.
Meet Toronto's crosswalk referee. We're back at 2. 2 days after it was tabled, the Liberal government's Safe Social Media Act is being welcomed by parents and child advocates. But as Deanna Sumanac-Johnson tells us, they're not quite ready to give it a passing grade until they see more details.
So do you think your friends are going to figure out a way around this?
For mom journalist and public speaker Farah Nasser, Ottawa's new proposed bill restricting social media for children is encouraging news.
So we don't have many of the details. I think that the great things about it are that we're talking not just about a ban, because we know in Australia kids are still on social media.
Introduced Wednesday, the Safe Social Media Act would force social media companies to restrict accounts for children under 16 years old, with exemptions granted if they can prove adequate safeguards to protect children, and establish the Digital Safety Commission, a regulatory body to oversee the conduct of platforms. This parent advocate says she in the bill.
Overall, it brings feelings of hope, and especially because you see clarity on about the right thing and prioritizing children.
This expert,
I just the safety by focus, the establishment of a commissioner, and also this possibility for different service providers to to meet a criteria, set of criteria, and show that they can be appropriate for kids was massive.
Still, how social media platforms will verify user ages and how the regulator will operate is not clear yet.
The devil is going to be in the details. Will they also be held accountable for the power that they have? There are some concerns over their access to data, that as more of this data is collected, that Canadians' privacy could be at risk.
These parents worry about how the law will be put into practice too. But for them and many others, this is a welcome first step in the battle they've fought alone for a long time. Deanna Sumanac-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
As the World Cup gets underway here in Toronto and across North America, it brings with it an unprecedented security operation.
Have you ever seen anything this complicated?
Not in my time. I've been on for 29 years here.
We go behind the scenes of the massive police deployment in Vancouver. Plus, so much excitement and so much money spent.
The city's going to lose money. The city as an entity is definitely going to lose money.
Will the World Cup promise pay off? The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next.
Who's this?
Hi.
This is Jessica.
Nice to meet you.
We should all go out sometime.
I would love that.
Wild Cards on CBC Gem.
There's a good sight. Canadian fans erupting with joy at a FIFA watch party in Toronto after Brampton, Ontario's Kyle Larin scored a late goal against Bosnia. That tie gave Canada its first ever point in a World Cup tournament. So with us now is Shireen Ahmed from CBC Sports. You were inside the stadium today, Lucky Duck. We were walking here, and so we could kind of hear some of the ups and downs as we walked through the streets, but you felt it. What was it like in there?
So, Adrian, the first rule is you're not supposed to be emotional in the press box.
Never.
And when the anthem was sung, and I just looked, and there was a sea of red, it was this moment of we've really arrived as a soccer nation in terms of fandom. Mm-hmm. And it was overwhelming. It was really powerful. I've never been in a stadium, and I've traveled the world covering soccer. I've never been with that many Canadian fans, and that mattered, and it was important.
Fantastic. So it's not the only time you're going to get to feel that. So when Canada faces Qatar next week, what's that going to look like? What's that match like?
So Qatar is not expected to be the most difficult of the matches in this group stage, but as anyone knows, you never predict that it'll be easy, because that's a recipe for disaster for any sports, person. And Jesse Marsh, head coach, knows to guide them through that, knowing that they have to play the toughest for every single match, and that's what they're prepared to do.
So one of the things that I kind of love about the World Cup, it's this moment to fall in love a little bit with teams maybe you didn't know that much about before this happened. So as you look ahead over the next 39 days, what are you watching for? Who do you have your eyes on?
So there's a couple teams that I'm really excited about, and it's the reemergence. A team like Iraq, like Turkey, like Haiti, who have had berths to the World Cup before but have had a long hiatus. And then Curacao, because they're the new one. And so it's those stories of coming back into the world's largest stage of football that I'm so interested in. And of course the fans, the people. This entire sport is about people. And that's what I'm looking forward to most.
Fantastic. Well, I'm waiting to hear it interpreted through your eyes, because you've already seen so much about the sport. So that's Shireen Ahmed of CBC Sports with us right here in Toronto. Thank you, friend. So Canadian fans are now going to shift their focus to Vancouver. That is a city that's hosted plenty of major events, including FIFA's Women's World Cup matches. But the city has also seen how the intensity of big sporting moments can sometimes turn ugly. So we went there to talk with those preparing for a huge job keeping everybody safe. You look around here and you're trying to assess the threat. What would concern you that has to be secured?
Has to be secured is probably going to be the inner basin where BC Place and Science World is.
This is False Creek, and it's at the doorstep of Vancouver's World Cup Stadium. And when your job is to protect everyone and everything, you see danger everywhere. So I guess all you're waiting for is the thing you don't see coming.
Yeah, you can dream a million different scenarios, but there could be that one-off that you don't see coming.
If you're the worrying kind, maybe these are the images flashing through your head. The what-if scenarios of what happens when soccer and crowds and geopolitics mix.
It is a very complex area with definitely with the waterways, the roadways.
Have you ever seen anything this complicated?
Not in my time. I've been on for 29 years here.
13 games in this country, 6 in Toronto, 7 in Vancouver.
This is the most complex problem the Vancouver police have faced for planning an event of this size.
And that's where Don Chapman is deputy chief. Keeping the city safe for all right now is his file.
Prepare for horses!
For both Canadian host cities, this will be the largest, longest police deployment in their history.
Horses coming through.
In addition to our members that you're going to see on the street, you're going to see members from the RCMP, Metro Vancouver Transit Police, Delta Police Force, and now Calgary, and as well as Edmonton Police. So that coordination, pulling all those officers together, is something unique.
The horses, paramedics, they're going to leave a gap.
All police vacations canceled in Vancouver well into July. This is just all hands on deck. All horses, too. With crowd control the most immediate concern, they've been drilling for months, showing us just a fraction of the training out of sight They prepared for a full menu of the worst-case scenarios and asked questions around the world.
We've had individuals go to Scotland, France, Germany, just specifically looking at soccer matches or football matches to see, is there hooliganism taking place?
One of the unique characteristics of soccer fandom is it's inherently rowdy. That's the norms of football fans, and that's often misinterpreted. And that's another danger here, is that celebratory behaviour can be interpreted as incipient hooliganism that then leads to an overly zealous police reaction.
To try to understand the flow of the fans, the British police, for example, will send 3 officers to the US for the games the Brits play there. And the British government has banned some 2,000 people from traveling to the World Cup because of past behavior. Those who are traveling have been urged to behave.
Would always urge our fans be respectful of law enforcement, recognise you're in a different country. The response you get from British cops might not be mirrored there. It's a different place.
This is a good point. Every country handles policing differently, meaning not all lessons translate. Certainly what Canadian police saw in Qatar in 2022 isn't necessarily useful.
I had a conversation with a Qatari captain. He said at every stadium I had 7,000 police officers. We don't have that many police officers in Canada, right?
You also have a whole bunch of different civic rights. You know, the two countries, Qatar and
Vastly different.
Canada, nothing alike.
Vastly different, 100%.
So Vancouver and Toronto will plan for the types of protests Qatar would never tolerate. Rallies about wars in Gaza and Iran and Ukraine are frequent and expected to continue in the downtown cores. Add to that the tens of thousands of cruise ship passengers who will flow into the tiny peninsula that is downtown Vancouver throughout the World Cup.
Our land can't get any bigger. We didn't choose to where the stadium was going to be.
There are thousands and thousands of people
Correct.
extra. How are you going to navigate that?
There's going to be specifically designated routes in and designated routes out.
What you hear is confidence, but if you know Vancouver, if you remember, for example, the hockey riot of 2011, you know that city has been tested before by crowds and sports. And there have been lessons police say they have learned. All are counting on that. Game 7, Stanley Cup final way back in 1994, downtown Vancouver.
I had thought, in all my experience, I thought we had lost the city. It was that bad.
Kashid was a Vancouver cop then.
I've had people that have shot at me, that have come at me with machetes, with axes, and tried to run me down with a car. I've never been so scared as I was that night in 1994. I literally had visions of the city burning down. That's how bad it was when all of a sudden everything hit a peak.
Everything he's talking about happened effectively within a few hundred meters of this intersection, Robson and Thurlow. As one of the reporters on the streets that night, I can tell you he's not exaggerating. This is what the intersection looked like at 8:20. Here's some of the story I filed back then. Robson and Thurlow, around 10 o'clock, 2 men walk the hydro wires while people in the crowd throw rocks and bottles at them.
We had the dark uniforms on. We had no specialized equipment on whatsoever.
Cops, so poorly equipped, they held back crowds with their fists. Walkie-talkies on different channels. Quod and his unit were tear-gassed by other cops who didn't realize who they were. That night, and the inquiry that followed, changed communication, training, and use of force in Vancouver policing.
We're prepared.
Quod seems sure crowd control will be fine now, but one worry really lurks.
You could have someone drive down the sidewalk right now and kill multiple people, just like we had at Lapu Lapu. We thought it would never happen.
Stay back, stay back.
The Lapu Lapu Street Festival in April of 2025 ended with a car ramming that killed 11 and wounded dozens.
That is, in my opinion, the largest threat that police have to be prepared for, and the public ultimately has to be prepared for.
And what is complicated about this moment with so many host cities is that what happens in one city could put police on alert in all the others.
So there's 16 host cities that are all connected and all be sharing some information. So we could have an incident that could happen in Kansas City, for example. That's going to affect the posture, security posture of all the other 15 cities involved.
Wanting to be able to alert the public immediately to problems means Vancouver is testing something new.
We can send a message out, type it out here, fires it out, and
An app for police to send warnings and for people to send tips.
And when they receive it, it's received in the language of their choice. I think this is going to be a bit of a game changer for us.
All the intel, even potentially live feeds from body cams, will be fed into operations centers like the one in Vancouver. Each host city has one, and there's a central one in Washington, D.C., into which all host cities report. So just to be clear, though, Americans won't be making any calls on public safety here.
Correct. Yeah, they have no authority, no jurisdiction to do so.
With all the planning and all the worry, those who know sports and crowds and policing want host cities to remember something important. This is supposed to be fun.
These fans are going to want to come to celebrate their national identity, celebrate their country's participation. They come not necessarily to go into the stadium, but to be part of the travelling community so that they can be there and say that they were there during the tournament.
Fun in some astonishingly beautiful places.
We don't want this to be necessarily security state. You don't want to be friendly, inviting, want people to feel safe, but we don't want to be obtrusive.
It's a balance they need to figure out, and the best outcome for all is that it is sports, not security, the world ends up talking about. So Vancouver will host its first World Cup game on Saturday as Australia takes on Turkey, and then the Canadians will play Qatar in Vancouver on June 18th. That will be a critical match for both countries. Well, coming up, the preparation is over and games are here, but for Vancouver and Toronto, does hosting the World Cup make financial sense?
The city's going to lose money. There's no way around that.
We'll break down who takes the revenue after cities bear the costs of a global spectacle. Next.
gruesome doesn't come close to describing this.
Why am I getting the feeling that you guys have seen something like this before?
Because we have.
The World Cup comes with a staggering price tag, and the arithmetic is difficult for host cities. They do a lot of paying, while FIFA does a lot of collecting.
Ticket sales, broadcast rights, almost all of your commercial sponsorship rights.
So if that's FIFA's take, what do the cities make? Eli Glasner looks at what the balance sheet might reveal once the costs are counted and economic benefits are projected.
There's an implicit promise to hosting the FIFA World Cup. Behind the hype and the hoopla and the massive expense, hosting the World Cup is supposed to pay off. But will it?
The city's going to lose money. The city as an entity is definitely going to lose money.
This is the biggest version of the World Cup ever. 48 teams, 104 matches spread over 3 countries. And that comes with a hefty price tag. According to the Parliamentary Budget Office, hosting the Cup will cost Canadians over $1 billion. In Vancouver, home to 7 games with a revamped BC place, giving familiar landmarks a FIFA makeover, adding security and getting the fan zones ready adds up to an estimated price between $685 and $729 million. Toronto, home to 6 games, the cost for getting BMO Field camera ready, the extensive temporary seating, and security adds up to $380 million. Overall, that's $82 million for each game in Canada. Urban Studies professor David Roberts says there are already signs Toronto is not where they'd hoped they'd be.
The city is scalping tickets, right? They bought a block of tickets that they are selling at above face value in order to attempt to recoup some of those costs. The city's going to lose money. The city as an entity is definitely going to lose money. There's no way around that.
According to a study prepared for FIFA, the Cup will create $3.8 billion in economic output, with $1.3 billion alone going to Ontario.
But is that realistic or just wildly optimistic? Is the hope that some of the attention sticks, that people see Toronto and then maybe decide to visit sometime in the future? What do we know about how much that actually happens?
Yeah, I mean, if that's the hope, it's a really thin hope, because I don't know if you watched the World Cup, but the focus is on the events happening on the field of play. It's not so much happening around the stadium or in the city more broadly.
Canadian Sports Management Assistant Professor Robert Soroka studies mega events. He compared the host city arrangements for the Olympics to the FIFA World Cup.
If you look at the host contract for, say, the upcoming Los Angeles Olympics, LA 28 is getting a huge guaranteed chunk of change, whereas none of the host cities for this upcoming World Cup are getting a guarantee of anything.
I mean, you've described it as you do, you pay, and we take. That's not very complimentary, Robert.
It is not. Think of the FIFA host city agreement as a one-way option agreement.
He says while host cities and regions carry the cost of putting on the games and meeting FIFA's requirements, FIFA keeps much of the revenue.
Ticket sales, broadcast rights, almost all of your commercial sponsorship rights.
The host city has to put on the organizing, the staging, and it all has to be done at the cost of the city, not the cost to FIFA. That is not a balanced relationship here.
No, it's not. It's a take it or leave it, and FIFA believes that they have a shiny enough attraction that cities will take it.
But in the run-up to the World Cup, some cities walked away. A Radio Canada investigation revealed Montreal organizers balked at what they described as the worst agreement, one that would have affected Montreal's Formula One race and the Jazz Festival. In Chicago, FIFA's demands for a dome was the final straw for then-Mayor Rahm Emanuel.
Then they said in the contract that they had the right to request a dome being built over Soldier Field. And I said, well, I'm not gonna, I said, you gotta take that out. They go, well, we never exercise it, but it's something we ask everybody. I said, I don't care if you never exercise, there will always be a first. Take it out.
When FIFA refused, Chicago dropped out. Part of what makes this World Cup different, as opposed to previous Cups in Brazil or Qatar, is that the tournament takes place across an entire continent. How do you think the fact that this Cup is spread out, all those different cities, 3 different countries, how does that affect what Canada is hoping to gain from this?
Yeah, so Canada is hosting the early stages, right? And so we have 3 weeks more of soccer to be played after Canada is done hosting.
But we're putting out $1 billion for this.
Absolutely. But energy and attention of the global audience is going to quickly shift to what happens in Mexico and then what happens in the United States.
And as to the expected influx of tourists, we checked in with Sarah Angel with the Greater Toronto Hotel Association. How is business?
What we did see, as we all know, is that the tournament, FIFA dropped a significant number of rooms in April, not only in Toronto, but across the 16 host cities. So that, obviously caught everyone by surprise.
And when it comes to current levels of occupancy?
It's uneven, is how I describe it. We have some nights when we're doing much better and others where it's lower than last year, upwards of 10% in occupancy versus the previous June.
The reason? What the industry calls displacement.
June is a busy month anyway in the city with meetings and conventions and conferences. So what in fact happened with FIFA being in the city during this month is that it displaced a significant amount of that business.
Well, she hopes the FIFA buzz will pay off in the long run. On the streets of Toronto, reaction is mixed. These England soccer fans say it's impossible to follow their team.
England to play their first game in Dallas and then in New Jersey and then Mexico City and then possibly Toronto. It's too big, it's too far.
While others aren't fazed by the price tag of hosting.
Money's money. You can receive it or you can get it back. It is what it is, but getting a World Cup back here is it's very rare.
Do you think it's worth the money the city is spending to host the World Cup? $82 million a game.
Yes.
Yeah, why?
Yes. I love football. Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a cool experience. It's never going to happen again.
And while Robert sees the Cup as a missed opportunity,
increasingly what it's feeling like is a private event being funded largely by public funds, happening on the edge of Toronto, more central in Vancouver, but not a community celebration.
with Spain, Morocco, Portugal, and Saudi Arabia already locked in for future cups, FIFA has little incentive to change.
Now, while Toronto and Vancouver are looking to offset some of the costs through the resale of tickets, the state of New Jersey's strategy includes upping the cost of transportation to and from its venue. New Jersey will host 8 matches, including the World Cup final. Well, coming up, traffic referees take over a busy Toronto intersection.
For the time we're here, I would say that the infractions are going down.
Drivers given yellow and red cards next in our moment. If you happen to be walking around downtown Toronto, you might stumble across two, well, let's call them traffic referees. Their real names are Martin Rice and Pascal Murphy, but out there they go by Avery Good Call and Colin Offside as they hand out yellow or even red cards to unsafe drivers. So tonight, how they're keeping the streets safe this World Cup is our moment.
When the game's over, you see quite a bit of action here. The cars are the players. We don't tell the players what to do. The pedestrians are the rules. You gotta obey the rules. Don't mess with the rules.
I got tired of not being able to cross the street because cars were blocking me.
If they get a red card, we tell them to go home, hit the showers, game's over. The reactions are diverse. Somebody said, you know you look ridiculous. And I was like, is that a pun? For the time we're here, I would say that the infractions are going down.
You guys are missing the game. How do you feel about that?
I'm dying to go over the scores because I was really chasing Canada today. That sounded good. That sounded good.
That sounded good.
You guys want to check it out?
Yeah.
Let's check it out.
Go Canada.
Okay, they are having a very good time. So apparently they started doing this during the Women's World Cup and they realized it was a little hard to get around the city. And once, only once, a cop pulled up and lowered the window and they thought, oh no, we're in for it now. And he just gave him a fist bump and a bit of a thank you. From all of us at the National, thanks for being with us. I'm Adrienne Arsenault in Toronto. Take care.
Canada's World Cup kickoff and a historic first. The men's team earning their first ever World Cup point. Tonight, we are just steps from Toronto Stadium, where Team Canada tied the home opener. The fan frenzy reaches a fever pitch right across the country. What Team Canada faces next, and what does it take to protect the host cities? You're trying to assess the threat.
You can dream a million different scenarios, but there could be that one-off that you don't see coming.
We take you inside the unprecedented security operation underway in Vancouver. And SpaceX goes public, making Elon Musk the world's first trillionaire. Why some investors warn this is a risky bet. And U.S. and Iranian officials say a deal to end the war is near. The reaction as CBC News has rare access inside Tehran.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us outside Toronto Stadium on a historic night for Canada's men's soccer team. Their World Cup run kicked off with a pretty tense match, a first on home soil. It ended in a draw, and that certainly hasn't dampened the atmosphere. More than 40,000 fans packed in to watch Canada take on Bosnia-Herzegovina. Many others joining watch parties right across this country. The match was a 1-1 draw, but still a historic result for Canada's men. Left-winger Kyle Laren's goal helping the team earn its first ever tournament point, and with that, Canada's World Cup hosting duties are officially underway. Thomas Daigle begins our coverage tonight with the match and the passionate fans all over this country.
Across the country, they watched and waited to witness history. And then it came. A goal to remember, the first one for Canada's men at a home World Cup.
We wanted to win, but we'll take the tie. We'll take the tie. We'll take the point.
The Snowbirds set the mood, signaling kickoff for a match full of firsts. Fans in red parading to Toronto Stadium, many having paid thousands to see their team on soccer's biggest stage.
It's well worth it. It's in Canada. It's a once in a lifetime.
The noise from those Canadians, though, was soon rivaled by the crowd in blue. All here to support the opponents from Bosnia.
I'm 110% super Bosnian.
And it was Bosnia who struck first. Canada's supporters showing their disappointment in the first half as Joko Lukic gave the visitors an early lead. Again and again, the Canadians failed to capitalize on chances until the second half, with Kyle Laren coming off the bench to even the score, celebrating by gesturing to call out his doubters.
I always proved them wrong, and I did it again, and hopefully now they can shut up.
Canada battling to a 1-1 draw. It's not a win, to be sure, but for fans, still a result worth celebrating.
We made it out, so we're okay. We're happy. We'll do a great job in the next 2 games, so I feel confident. I'm happy with the result, and go Canada.
In Canada's other host city, Vancouver, reviews were mixed.
I didn't like it too much. No.
Why not?
Because they don't play good.
We gotta win out now. Yeah, I think we gotta win out.
For Jesse Marsh, it was a first match on the global stage as head coach, a result to build on next week against Qatar.
You got to find a way to have a bit more confidence and a bit more self-belief and make sure that we go after the game in ways that we want to do so tactically and psychologically and mentally.
Now, to listen to Coach Jesse Marsh there, he views this as a tale of two halves. He told his men after the game that if they play again like they did in the second half, they will win, and indeed they really do have to win their next match against Qatar if they want to keep the dream alive of advancing to the next round.
Yeah, no kidding. Can you walk us through what the team's next steps are here?
Yeah, we got confirmation that the team is going to be traveling to Vancouver on Saturday. They're going to be returning in front of the cameras to train on Monday, and they're going to be setting up their base camp in Vancouver for the remainder of the tournament, potentially again playing in Vancouver if they advance that crucial knockout phase.
Okay, one day at a time. Thomas, thanks very much.
Okay.
So now let's go to Los Angeles and Lindsay Duncombe as that city kicks off its hosting duties too with USA versus Paraguay. So Lindsay, you're near the SoFi Stadium. I don't know, can you give us a sense of what it feels like there?
You know, people are really excited for this match and for the fact that all of the matches will be being played here are the ones that are being played in the United States. We were talking to the fans as they were streaming in, and they said, you know, it has been 3 decades since the United States hosted a World Cup. So for the young fans, Adrian, this is the first time they're getting a chance to see their team play on home soil. There was a YouGov survey not long ago that said a lot of Americans are not interested in the World Cup. More than 50% said they wouldn't be paying attention. That may well be the case, but it certainly is not the case here as people are prepared for this match. I did speak to a couple of women who said this is about more than soccer.
It's nice to have something where we're all coming together as a country and cheering on and supporting
And
these
with
players.
other countries too, with Canada as well. We were rooting for Canada and all the host
And
countries.
Mexico, yep. Is that because you feel like things feel a bit divided these days?
Of course.
SpaceX is blasting off on the stock market in a way that no company in human history has ever done.